Hi all, welcome to new class. So we are discussing about power systems. So next topic in power system is tariff. So what is tariff? The rate at which electrical energy is supplied to a consumer is known as tariff. So tariff is the rate at which electrical energy is supplied to a consumer. And the tariff should include the total cost of producing and supplying electrical energy plus the profit. But it cannot be the same for all types of consumers. That is, consideration has to be given to different types of consumers like industrial, then domestic and commercial while fixing the tariff. And there are some objectives of the tariff. That is, the tariff should include recovery of cost of producing electrical energy at the power station, then recovery of cost on the capital investment in transmission and distribution systems, then recovery of operation and maintenance of supply of electrical energy, then a suitable profit on the capital investments. So these are the objectives of tariff. Next is the characteristics of a tariff. A tariff must have the following desirable characteristics. First one is proper return. A tariff should be such that it ensures the proper return from each consumer. Next one is fairness. The tariff must be fair so that different types of consumers are satisfied with the rate of charge of electrical energy. Thus, a big consumer should be charged at a lower rate than a small consumer. It is because the increased energy consumption spreads the fixed charge over a greater number of units, thus reducing the overall cost of producing the electrical energy that we have studied in the earlier classes. Next one is simplicity. The tariff should be simple so that an ordinary consumer can easily understand it. Next one is reasonable profit. The profit element in the tariff should be reasonable. Next is attractive. The tariff should be attractive so that a large number of consumers are encouraged to use electrical energy. Next is types of tariff. There are several types of tariff. Let us study about the commonly used types of tariff. First one is simple tariff. When there is a fixed rate per unit of energy consumed, it is called simple tariff, or it is also called uniform rate tariff. So in this tariff, the price charged per unit is constant. That is, it does not vary with increase or decrease in number of units consumed. The consumption of energy at the consumer's terminals is recorded by means of an energy meter, and this is the simplest of all tariffs and is readily understood by the consumers. But there are some disadvantages. That is, here there is no discrimination between the different types of consumers. So no discrimination between consumers. And also here the cost per unit delivered is high. Then also it does not encourage the use of electricity. So it does not encourage the use of electricity. So these are the disadvantages of the simple tariff. Next is flat rate tariff. When different types of consumers are charged at different uniform per unit rates, it is called a flat rate tariff. So in this type of tariff, the consumers are grouped into different classes and each class of consumers is charged at a different uniform rate. For example, the flat rate per kWh for lighting load may be 60 paise, whereas it may be slightly less for power load, say 55 paise. So the advantage of such a tariff is that it is more fair to different types of consumers and is quite simple in calculations. But there are some disadvantages in this type of tariff. That is, since the flat rate tariff varies according to the way the supply is used, separate meters are required for lighting load, power load, etc. So this makes the application of such a tariff expensive and complicated, and a particular class of consumers is charged at the same rate irrespective of the magnitude of the energy consumed. However, a big consumer should be charged at a lower rate, as in this case the fixed charges per unit are reduced. So that is about the flat rate tariff. Next is block rate tariff. When a given block of energy is charged at a specified rate and the succeeding blocks of energy are charged at a progressively reduced rates, it is called a block rate tariff. So in this block rate tariff, the energy consumption is divided into blocks and the price per unit is fixed in each block. The price per unit in the first block is highest and it is progressively reduced for the succeeding blocks of energy. For example, the first 30 units. So, first 30 units may be charged at 60 paise per unit. Then next 25 units at the rate of 55 paise. Then the remaining may be charged at the rate of 30 paise per unit. The advantage of such a tariff is that the consumer gets an incentive to consume more electrical energy, and this increases the load factor of the system and hence the cost of generation is reduced. And this type of tariff is being used for majority of residential and small commercial consumers. Next is two-part tariff. When the rate of electrical energy is charged on the basis of maximum demand of the consumer and the units consumed, it is called a two-part tariff. That is, in two-part tariff, the total charge to be made from the consumer is split into two components, that is, fixed charges and running charges. So, the fixed charges depend on the maximum demand, and while the running charges depend on the number of units consumed. Thus, the consumer is charged at a certain amount per kW of the maximum demand plus certain amount per kWh of the energy consumed. That is, we have already studied total charges is equal to rupees B into kW plus C into kWh. That is, B is the charge per kilowatt of the maximum demand and C is the charge per kilowatt hour of the energy consumed. And this type of tariff is mostly applicable to industrial consumers who have appreciable maximum demand. And the advantages of this type of tariff is that it is easily understood by the consumers, and it recovers the fixed charges which depend on the maximum demand of the consumer but are independent of the units consumed. And the main disadvantages are the consumer has to pay the fixed charges irrespective of the fact whether he has consumed or not consumed the electrical energy. Then there is always error in assessing the maximum demand of the consumer. Next is maximum demand tariff. It is similar to two-part tariff with the only difference that the maximum demand is actually measured by installing maximum demand meter in the premises of the consumer. So this removes the objection of two-part tariff where the maximum demand is assessed merely on the basis of the rateable value. And this type of tariff is mostly applied to big consumers. Next one is power factor tariff. The tariff in which power factor of the consumer's load is taken into consideration is known as power factor tariff. So, in an AC system, the power factor plays an important role. A low power factor increases the rating of station equipment and line losses. Therefore, a consumer having low power factor must be penalized. And there are different types of power factor tariff. First one is KVA maximum demand tariff. So it is a modified form of two-part tariff. In this case, the fixed charges are made on the basis of maximum demand in KVA, not in KW. As the KVA is inversely proportional to the power factor, a consumer having low power factor has to contribute more towards the fixed charges. And this type of tariff has the advantage that it encourages the consumers to operate their appliances and machinery at improved power factor. Next one is sliding scale tariff. This is also known as the average power factor tariff. In this case, an average power factor, say 0.8 lagging, is taken as the reference. And if the power factor of the consumer falls below this 0.8, then suitable additional charges are made. On the other hand, if the power factor is above the reference, then a discount is allowed to the consumer. Next is KW and kVAR tariff. In this type, both active power, that is kilowatt power, and also the reactive power kVAR supplied are charged separately. And a consumer having low power factor will draw more reactive power and hence have to pay more charges. Next is three-part tariff. When the total charge to be made from the consumer is split into three parts like fixed charges, semi-fixed charges and running charges, then it is called a three-part tariff. That is, here the total charge is equal to rupees A plus B kW plus C kWh, where A is the fixed charge made during each billing period. It includes the interest and depreciation on the cost of the secondary distribution and labor cost of collecting revenues. Then B is the charge per kW of the maximum demand and C is the charge per kilowatt hour of the energy consumed. And this type of tariff is generally applied to big consumers. So that is about the different types of tariffs commonly used. So thank you for watching the class. If you like the classes, please like, share and subscribe my channel.